On top of that, just to let you know, one of the things you'd like to be able to do is kind of properly market your business. One of the ways you do that type of thing is let your customers know, your existing clients, as to what kinds of tax law changes might impact their return in advance. And it may even indicate what kinds of information they need to bring with them when they're having their tax return done. All these types of things, tell your customers, tell your clients that literally not only are you engaged, but you have their best interest in mind.
Welcome to another episode of the Taxverse Podcast Experience from CrossLink Professional Tax Solutions. My name is Steve Kratzke, and I am the host of the podcast where we help tax businesses and entrepreneurs grow their communities, generate more revenue, and expand their knowledge. If you are a first-time listener, thank you, and please consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to content. Did you know our podcast is recorded in video format? You can catch all our episodes over on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and select the notifications bell to never miss another episode. Today's episode is on how to prepare for tax season, and I knew immediately who I wanted to include on this episode. Our guest today has tremendous amount of experience in successfully preparing tax businesses for tax season, and he also gets the honor of being the first official guest on the show. Steve Kratzke is the Director of Training here at CrossLink, and in this episode, I discuss with him what businesses need to be doing to prepare for tax season. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into the episode. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining the podcast today. I'm excited to have you on the show. How's it been going?
Good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on, Zach.
I didn't know if you knew this, but you are our first official guest on this podcast.
All right, getting the bat lead off, huh?
Yes, sir. Hey, before we get into the episode today, I just wanted to maybe you can expand on, how long you've been in the industry and what you currently do here at CrossLink.
Sure. I've been in this industry about 16 years, and I am actually the Director of Training for the company. I oversee all the training that we do for our customers, and that includes working with our prospects and doing demonstrations and making sure that the folks are ready come game day. When I speak of game day, I'm really literally talking about the beginning of the tax season. If you think about it, it's very important to be ready when the time comes, and my team's here to help facilitate, make that happen.
Awesome. Yeah, and that will jump right into what our podcast is about today, is what we need to do to prepare ourselves for tax season. And, Steve, you have a great history of preparing businesses for that specific need. And so one of the things I wanted to touch on getting started was, what are some of the, I always thought, must-dos when, just take it as I'm a brand new preparer, right? What do I need to do to get my business up and running initially for tax season?
That's a great question. When you speak of preparers, obviously you might have an office full of preparers. You're speaking of a tax business itself, I'm assuming. Correct. So, and by the way, preparing your preparers is part of getting ready as a business. And so it's important to understand, one of the things I believe very strongly is that this is a highly competitive industry. It's also an industry in which the business is done in a very, very quick amount of time between January and April. But in reality, it's kind of like the end of January through the beginning of, March, maybe. So throughout February. So during a very short period of time, things are very intense. And so one of the things that we truly believe is the better you're ready before that, the more successful you're going to be. I think of it as almost being the Super Bowl, if you will, the first day of filing season. You need to be ready, because if you're not, then people are going to go elsewhere. And so there are a lot of things that you can do to prepare for that type of thing, certainly starting with making sure that you're not only having invested in the proper tax software that you're going to be used, but you're also fluent in using it, and that your preparers are fluent in using it, that it's been set up correctly. All these types of things, you don't want to wait till the end. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of runway, if you will, so that you are prepared come that middle of January when people start coming into your office. And in fact, people oftentimes come into your office long before that. And the better prepared you are for that day, when you open your doors, the more successful you're going to be. I know that this is kind of a repeating theme, if you will, but all the different things that you can do, whether it be the signage on your office, or if you're going to work remotely, making sure that all of your connections are in order. Everything from making sure that you have the proper supplies to making sure that your folks are properly trained. These are all the things that make for a successful business.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular, if I'm wanting to get involved with preparing taxes, do I need any kind of numbers, anything like that?
Great question. I think there are two different things that you're going to want to make sure you have taken care of. Certainly all the things I talked about as far as supplies, and we can talk about marketing strategies, all those types of things as well. But first of all, you need to make sure that you're registered with the IRS. And when we speak of registrations with the IRS, there are two important distinctions, or two different kinds of registrations that take place. As a business owner, you need to be able to electronically file, and that means that you're going to have to get an EFIN. And then each one of your tax professionals that's working in your office, including yourself, is going to have to get what's known as a PTIN. And a PTIN is a registration in which you're going to pay, and you're then registered. So it's important to look at this, and the best way to get background information or further information on this is to simply go through the IRS website, and they will tell you irs.gov, and they will tell you all the things that are required. But remember that it's on two different fronts. As an electronic filer, you're going to need to make sure that you're registered, and you're going to want to give yourself plenty of lead time, because what's going to happen is they have to take your application, run it, and then you get an EFIN number. And then the PTIN registration also has to take place for any one of your preparers in your office. So think of it this way. You need a PTIN to do a tax return, but you need an EFIN to electronically file. So you're going to need one EFIN for your office, and you're going to have PTINs for each one of your preparers. I believe that taking care of those things early gives you a much greater chance of success. You don't want to be waiting on those types of things, because guess what? Season comes, season starts, you're not ready, people will go elsewhere.
Nice. Sticking with software, is there anything that sticks out to you that new preparers or new businesses need to be aware of going in?
Sure. Regardless of what software you choose, you want to make sure that you go through an onboarding. And when I'm talking about onboarding, is making sure that your software is properly set up, because you want to make sure that as you're using the software, it's actually running the results for you, and it's actually making sure that each one of your preparers is an individual identification within the software, all those types of stuff. You want to make sure that depending on the responsibilities that you give different preparers in your office, or different employees that you give in your office, that you have the proper structure, so that people in some instances have access to more things than less things. And so one of the things that I really believe is make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to get onboarded. Regardless of what software solution you choose, you want to make sure that it's up, it's running, and everything's been set correctly. So I believe very, very strongly that you want to work with a company that makes sure that as part of the sale, or as part of using their software, they're going to make sure that there's time dedicated to have you onboarded or set up properly the software. And of course, if you're an experienced preparer that's moving softwares, one of the things that you want to do is include in that responsibility is making sure that your book of business gets moved over to whatever software you're using as well. That's all very important. You also want to make sure that if you're choosing to have a banking partner involved, so that you can provide financial products for your customers, it's incredibly important to make sure that you've done your registration with whatever banking partner you choose. So it's important on the fronts of making sure that as part of your onboarding, that any kind of existing data that you have is pulled to your new software, unless you're brand new. You also want to make sure that all of your office is set up, and even the networking within your office, which we all call part of an onboarding. The software itself will be able to do returns, but you also want to make sure that you're set up in such a way that again, it's helping you run your business. And then you want to make sure that you're also registering with whatever bank you want to use, or banking partner that you want to use. And there will be some lead time that's required in that as well, because each one of the banks has its own requirements as far as going ahead and processing your request to do business with them.
Nice. The tax world recently is, changed to more of flexible scheduling, remote work. But as far as setting up my business, what are some of the operational necessities, so to speak?
Sure. There are, this industry is very interesting. There's some constants, and there are also some things that are always changing. And including with some of the changes that have taken place is the ability to help or assist people in a remote matter, those types of things. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to get prepared in that arena as well. You still want to make sure that you have a functioning printer. You want to make sure that you have your toners established, it's all set up and it's working and all those types of things, because customers will make different requests. You may even have somebody that's remote, but they would like to a copy of their tax return mailed to them, in which case you can determine whether that's something that you can charge for. But the reality is you have to be prepared for all these types of things. And so what's very interesting when you talk about what are some of the stuff that I want to do, if you are using brick and mortar, in other words, you're going to have an office front, you can hang a shingle, you're also going to want to make sure that if the business license is required in a particular area in which you're doing business, that done your due diligence and checked into those areas as well. So it's just like starting any other kind of business. And one of the things that you're going to want to do is, what do I need to be successful on day one? And what do I want to make sure that I have in place so that I don't go scrambling later on? Because guess what? I'm in the middle of the tax season and all of a sudden I realize that I don't have toner and there's a supply chain issue and I can't get toner. That's a serious issue. Sure. One of the things that really, really, really hurts people badly in this business is people that have downtime during the season. For whatever reason, if you have downtime during the season, that is very serious. So the better you can prepare beforehand, and you want to think through everything from, how well I've trained my employees, to ultimately how do I have the right materials in my office? Do my supplies are in place? Have I set up the computer correctly or the software correctly, as you and I were talking about before? Have I made sure that I have contingencies in case I lose power, or one of those types of things as well? All these things are very real, and things the better you check before the season starts, the more successful you're going to be. You'd be surprised at how you can end up being dead in the water, if you will, if I could use that terminology, simply because I didn't think of something. And there's so many different ways that, downtime can happen. You don't want that. Can't happen. So one of the things that we've come to find is that when people want to have their taxes done, they want their taxes done now. And, if your office is, and unless you have a really, really, really focused and dedicated clientele, if you're not ready or if there's an issue, they will not hesitate to go to another office, to another tax practice.
Yeah. Going back to your Super Bowl analogy, I mean, you got to be prepared, ready to go, more than ever.
One of the things I like to say is that in my team, we do all the kinds of onboardings, we do all the trainings, we get everyone ready. And you know what? If somebody is asking for our training after the season start, certainly unless they have a very specific kind of customer base that they're trying to work with, they're too late. Really, you want to make sure that you're doing all the things. And that's why, as an example, in our company, we do all kinds of webinars. We do all kinds of different ways that we can remotely train people. We do all these types of things. But we're not doing these things in February. We do these things on behalf of our customers in November, in December, January. And included with that is that we will make sure that we put out broadcasts on tax law updates. So even if you're an experienced business, you need to know what's changed from last year. It's a fascinating industry in that every single year, obviously, the tax codes change. And as they change, you need to make sure that you have the most relevant information so that you are ready when that customer comes into your office. On top of that, just to let you know, one of the things you'd like to be able to do is kind of properly market your business. One of the ways you do that type of thing is let your customers know, your existing clients, as to what kinds of tax law changes might impact their return in advance. And it may even indicate what kinds of information they need to bring with them when they're having their tax return done. All these types of things, tell your customers, tell your clients that literally not only are you engaged, but you have their best interest in mind.
Sure. That leads us right into the next question I had for you. Is there anything as far as the marketing side of it, getting prepared for tax season, that these businesses, individuals can start doing now that will really benefit them?
Great question. And I think that there are two sides to this. One, if you're a startup business, which is one of the things that we were talking about a little bit earlier, what is it that you do to start getting in front of people? And then you have the people that you have as existing tax clients. How do you stay in front of them? Because one of the things you want to do is be top of mind, meaning when somebody thinks about having their tax return done for them, they're only thinking of you. So the first thing you're going to have to realize is that, how do I start my business? Do I have a core business or a core group? One of the things you want to do is establish, regardless of how small or how large that group is, who is it you're going to target your very first go around? And that is something that each person's going to have to answer individually, but it's so important, because guess what? If you just open your doors and you expect people to come in, that's not necessarily going to happen. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that I have a core strategy as to how I'm going to bring my initial clients in. and whether it be friends and family, those types of things. And then even thinking about how you can work through that first year where, you know what, if somebody has his or her tax return done by you, can you somehow incent that person to bring his friend or his family member? So those types of things like referrals. Referrals is a very, very, very strong way of growing your business. After that, after you've established some of your marketing strategies to begin bringing clients in, you have to stay in front of them, whether it be acknowledging a birthday. You remember, you have a lot of information on each one of the tax-paying clients that you have. You want to make sure that you're staying in front of them should there be something that's important that they know that's changed with regard to the tax code. You want to make sure that you're sending a message to them a month before they're going to be coming to you, or you're going to be visiting them remotely, saying, hey, have these types of things ready for me, because it's a call to action, and it's also telling them that you care and that you're engaged with them. So I really believe that there are two fronts to marketing. One is that how you begin your business and how you begin to create a base of customers or clients, and then how do you keep them? So in other words, how do you literally start and how do you stay? Mm-hmm. And that's so important, because this is an industry in which people will change their tax professional if, again, they feel that, you know what, there's a better deal to be had somewhere else.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think you've provided a tremendous amount of value today, Steve, and I'm honored to have you on the show, and I hope that you'll be able to come back and join more episodes as we continue this ball rolling.
It'd be my pleasure, obviously. This is fun. It's fun talking this industry. It's a very, very unique industry. And by the way, that's an interesting term I use, very unique. No, it's just plain unique. And so with regard to that, there's lots of stuff that each and every one of us want to talk through. And one of the things that I always find fun is that just you hear from other tax professionals, and you know, one of the things that you do is you always are learning. I've been in this industry 16 years and I'm still learning things all the time. And that's so true. And that's why these podcasts are so valuable. Very true. Steve, if there's anyone that is looking to get started for this tax season or start up a new tax business, you know, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys? Sure. Well, I would think that, you know, and again, I want to talk to anybody that's working with any kind of software. It all makes sense. But, you know, one of the things that we take great pride in here with CrossLink is that our business folks, our salespeople, are really consultants. They're not simply here taking orders. They are here to help you. And you know what? One of the things that we take great pride in is helping people come into this industry. If you call our offices, 1-800-345-4337, and then look for the sales, go ahead and click on that. Let me tell you something. Somebody can really help you out with regard to what are you required and how is it that we can help you. We believe very strongly in partnerships here. And what we say is that in order for us to be successful, you need to be successful. So contact our folks, because they will give you a lot of the insights, or even greater insight than what I provided today, with regard to how to start and how to stay successful in this industry. Perfect. Well, again, thank you, Steve, for joining me. It's absolutely my pleasure. I hope this episode has provided some value, and we at CrossLink are always here to help you get started. If you are someone that is looking to start a tax business this year, contact our team at sales@crosslinktax.com or call us at 800-345-4337. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Taxverse Podcast Experience. I'm your host, Zach Kratzke, and I will catch you on the next one.